Judgement at Tokyo, World War II on Trial, and the Making of Modern Asia, by Gary J. Bass. Read for you by Simon Vance. For Miriam. Where do murderers go, man? Who's to doom when the judge himself is dragged to the bar? Herman Melville. Moby Dick. Introduction. Tojo Hideki heard the soldiers coming for him. At his simple cottage in Tokyo's suburbs on September 11th, 1945, he was making no attempt to hide. With his fastidiously cropped moustache, bald head, round tortoise-shell glasses, and the assertive bearing of a career general, the Prime Minister of Imperial Japan during much of World War II was unmistakable. His grotesquely caricatured features, eyes slanted, teeth sharpened, fingernails pointy, had been a staple of American propaganda, encouraging war bonds, routinely paired with Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. It was just over a month since the detonation of the 2 atomic bombs, and less than a month since Japan had at last surrendered. The victorious Allied armies were in the early, uncertain days of their occupation of Japan. One of their first tasks was to round up suspected Japanese war criminals. Tojo was perfectly aware that US troops knew where to find him. The day before, an American wire reporter had had little difficulty locating him at home. When asked who was responsible for starting the war, the Prime Minister whose cabinet had ordered the attack on Pearl Harbor was unrepentant. "You are the victors, and you are able to name him now," he replied serenely. "But historians 500 or 1,000 years from now may judge differently." A small, nervous group of US soldiers arrived at the cottage. At first, Tojo refused to talk to them, and then, dressed casually in an open-collared white shirt, slid open a window to demand their credentials. For some unbearably tense minutes they were stalled by a servant, until their patience wore out. "Tell this yellow bastard we've waited long enough," snapped the US major in charge. Soon after, the Americans heard a muffled gunshot from inside. Startled, the soldiers kicked down the door. They burst into the house to find Tojo standing upright, reeling slightly. In his right hand was a smoking Colt .32 caliber pistol. His left hand was clutched to his chest, red blood streaming through his white shirt. He had made the efficient choice of a gun to kill himself, and an American-made one at that, instead of availing himself of any one of the 3 ceremonial Japanese swords in the room. The leading US major, in the sights of the lurching pistol, screamed, "Don't shoot!" and Tojo let his gun fall with a clatter. Knees buckling, he crumpled into an easy chair. His eyes drooped, and he strained to breathe, sweating, coughing, moaning in agony. Expert at dealing out death, Tojo botched his own. The bullet only grazed his heart, exiting his back at the left shoulder blade. American soldiers, one of them a Japanese American from the Bronx, bustled him out of the cottage and into a car, and raced him toward an American military hospital at Yokohama, south of central Tokyo. They drove through a shattered, charred landscape. 6 months ago, as many as 100,000 people in Tokyo had been, in the words of a US general leading a massive incendiary bombardment, scorched and boiled and baked to death in a single night. The city's rivers had boiled, and liquefied glass had rained. The stench of burning flesh had been so intense that US B-29 bomber pilots several thousand feet above had gagged. What was left was a vast city of ashes. Much of Japan's sprawling capital had been built with wood houses. Those humble homes were now fine cinders. Tokyo was reduced to a series of shanties, endless rows of little shacks cobbled together from whatever scraps of metal or stone had survived the unnatural flames. The gloom was broken only by the occasional flower planted by the dispossessed residents of these huts, or a curtain hung over a makeshift window. Scoured by fire, sturdier buildings like factories
Sample complete. Ready to continue?